Imagine this, you're living what you think is the perfect life, happily married, with a wife who you trust completely, and a best friend who's like a brother to you. But then one day, your entire world gets flipped upside down in the most brutal way imaginable. What would you do if the two people closest to you, the ones you trust with your life, suddenly ran away together? Your wife, your best friend, gone. Just like that. And to make it worse, they left without so much as a warning. No explanation. Nothing. I was devastated. How could the people I loved the most betray me like this? But it gets crazier. After everything they did, they're BTA now begging for my forgiveness, begging to be let back into my life. What would you do in my shoes? Could you ever forgive them after such a massive betrayal? Stick around because I'm about to share every shocking detail of how my wife and best friend's betrayal left me shattered and the unbelievable way they came crawling back. You won't believe how this ends. You know, before everything fell apart, life seemed perfect. My wife and I had been married for years, and to be honest, I thought we were solid. We had our ups and downs, sure, but what marriage doesn't? She was my rock, and I genuinely believed we were in it for the long haul. And then there was my best friend. We had been close since high school, practically inseparable. He was there for me through thick and thin, every major moment of my life. Weddings, birthdays, tough times. He was always around. If there was one person I thought I could trust besides my wife, it was him. The three of us even used to hang out together all the time. There was never a reason to be suspicious. In fact, I liked that they got along. We'd go on double dates, game nights, weekend trips. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. Looking back now, I can see just how blind I was. But at the time, life was good. Or so I thought. Little did I know, everything I'd built was about to come crashing down. Looking back, there were signs. Little things that didn't seem important at the time, but now, they make total sense. It started off small. My wife and best friend would spend more time together. Without me, it wasn't like I thought anything of it at first. He was my best friend, and she was my wife. If they were planning a surprise for me or helping each other with something, I figured it was harmless. But then, there were moments that felt off. I remember one night, we were all hanging out, and the vibe was just different. I can't explain it, but I caught them exchanging glances. You know those quick looks, the kind where it feels like there's an inside joke you're not part of? Yeah, those. Then, my wife's phone habits changed. She used to leave it around the house, no problem. But suddenly, she started taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. I brushed it off, thinking I was overreacting. After all, we had nothing to hide, right? It wasn't until much later that I realized these weren't just coincidences. I should have seen the warning signs, but I trusted them both too much to even consider it. It wasn't until everything came crashing down that I realized how blind I had been. The moment of truth hit me like a freight train, and I'll never forget how it all unraveled. It was a typical Friday evening. My wife told me she was going to visit her sister for the weekend, which wasn't out of the ordinary. We didn't live far from her, so these quick trips happened every now and then. She gave me a quick kiss, said goodbye, and left with her suitcase. I didn't think twice about it. I trusted her. A few hours later, I was at home scrolling through my phone when something strange happened. I got a notification, a message from my best friend's social media account. At first, I thought it was just a random update, but when I opened the app, my stomach dropped. He had accidentally shared a photo on his story. Him and my wife, together, in a hotel room, laughing, close, way too close. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. At first, I thought, no, this has to be some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe it was an old picture or a prank. But the date was right there, today, and it wasn't just the photo. There was a video clip too, and in it, they were, well, let's just say it was clear that something more was going on. I felt my heart sink into my stomach. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. How could this be happening? My wife had just left, claiming she was heading to her sister's, but instead, she was meeting up with him, the person I trusted the most outside of my marriage. I immediately called her, but it went straight to voicemail. Panic set in. I called my best friend next. Same thing, voicemail. My hands were shaking. I felt sick. The betrayal was right in front of my eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to accept it. Then it hit me. This wasn't the first time. It couldn't be. This was just the first time they'd slipped up and let me see it. How many times had they lied to me? How long had this been going on behind my back? At that moment, my entire world shattered. The two people I loved and trusted the most had been deceiving me, and the worst part? They didn't even try to hide it. They were out there, living a secret life right in front of my face. After I confronted them, everything changed. My wife didn't even bother coming home. She packed up her things and left without so much as an apology. My so-called best friend, he ghosted me too. In a matter of hours, the two people I trusted most vanished from my life. At first, I didn't know how to cope. The house felt empty, like a shell of what it once was. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of the life I thought I had. The photos on the walls, the things she left behind. I was living in a nightmare, but I couldn't wake up. The betrayal ate away at me. I kept wondering how long they'd been lying. How many moments between us were built on lies. Trust wasn't just broken, it was shattered beyond repair. But after the initial shock, something strange happened. As painful as it was, there was a sense of freedom in knowing the truth. The lies were exposed, and I no longer had to pretend. It hurt like hell, but I slowly started to rebuild my life. I focused on myself, spent time with real friends, and worked on healing from the betrayal. It wasn't easy. There were days I wanted to scream, cry, or just give up. But over time, I realized that their leaving wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. I wasn't living in their shadow anymore. And as hard as it was to admit, I was better off without them. I started to find peace in the chaos they left behind. Just when I thought I was finally moving on, the last thing I ever expected happened. Out of the blue, I received a message from my wife. After months of silence, she suddenly wanted to talk. At first, I didn't even want to open it, but curiosity got the better of me. She wasn't just reaching out to talk, she was asking for forgiveness. She said she made a mistake, that things didn't work out the way she thought they would, and now she was sorry. It was almost laughable. The same woman who betrayed me and ran off with my best friend was now trying to patch things up. And if that wasn't enough, not long after, my best friend reached out too. He claimed he had been going through a rough time, that he regretted everything and wanted to make amends. They both wanted me to forgive them and move on, like nothing ever happened. I was stunned. After all the pain, after all the lies, they thought an apology could fix it. As if their betrayal was just a minor mistake. It was unbelievable. They may have been sorry, but I wasn't ready to just forget. Some things can't be undone. After they both came crawling back, I was torn. Part of me wanted to scream at them, to make them feel the pain they put me through. How could they expect me to forgive and forget? They had destroyed everything I once believed in, shattered the trust that took years to build. Forgiveness felt impossible. But another part of me wondered if holding on to all that anger was worth it. I had started rebuilding my life, and giving them space in my thoughts only brought me back to the worst moments. Was forgiveness the key to letting go, or would it just allow them to get away with what they did? I struggled with that question every day. Could I really move on without forgiving them, or was closure only possible by cutting them out of my life completely? It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore, it was about my peace of mind, my ability to heal. Forgiveness wasn't for them, it was for me. But how could I forgive such a devastating betrayal and still respect myself? It was the hardest decision I'd ever had to make, and either way, there was no easy answer. In the end, life isn't always black and white. Betrayal cuts deep, but forgiveness is a personal journey. I'm still working through my emotions, but one thing is clear: I'll never be the same. I've learned that some people will betray you, and it's up to you to decide how to move forward. What would you do in my situation? Could you forgive, or would you walk away for good? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this: betrayal, heartbreak, and the tough choices we all face.